Studio is our senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano.
Right.
Judge, what do you think about the president there at the end saying, this is what happens at the end of the wars. We get our people back.
This is hardly a traditional war. This is certainly not a recognized government. This is a terrorist organization that has no legitimacy, no legal basis, no legal standing. And it's been the policy of the United States government since 9/11, actually before 9/11, never to negotiate with non-state actors whose modus operandi is just to kill Americans. It's not to run a government in another country. Look, there's a lot of legal issues here. The lesser legal issue is the failure to inform Congress. He signed into law a statute saying, if I'm going to take anybody out of Gitmo for any reason whatsoever, I have to give Congress 30 days notice so that they can object or they can inquire. Somebody's calling Brian on this.
No, it's not my cell. It's the computer. They left the sound up.
All right. But the far more difficult one, we're talking about this before the president came on, is that we have a federal statute which makes it a felony to provide material assistance to a terrorist organization. Now, material assistance has been defined very, very broadly. It could be money, it could be maps, it could be professional services, it could be any asset whatsoever, including human assets. So I have argued that by letting these people free, and the natural and probable results of them being let free is that they will rejoin this terrorist organization. The president has done what his Justice Department has prosecuted people for, successfully prosecuted people for, providing material assistance to a terrorist organization.
Couple of issues. Number one, he says he was never really for that 30-day window of informing Congress before anybody was going to be released.
Well, then he
for
shouldn't have signed it into law. He should have vetoed it.
Right. So having said that, he said, I briefed people along the way that this deal was on the table, so this was nothing new.
You know, the president took the position when he signed the law that he didn't like it and he might enforce it and might not enforce it. That defies his oath, Brian, because the presidential oath says the president shall faithfully, I emphasize the word faithfully because it's in the oath and it's in the Constitution, enforce the federal laws. The reason the framers put the word faithfully in there is to remind presidents they have to enforce all the laws whether they agree with them or not.
Mm-hmm. Judge, let's talk about Sergeant Bergdahl. Many of his fellow soldiers are saying that he deserted and he could be collaborating with the terrorists and with terrorist organizations. He also said in a Facebook post that he's ashamed to be an American. Should he face court-martial?
Well, he certainly should face inquiry. I mean, the military has an absolute obligation to find out if he was deranged when he said this or if he really planned and plotted to leave. Did he aimlessly walk away because he didn't know what he was doing, or did he intend never to return?
Well, he mailed his stuff back and he wrote a note.
Well,
so
the evidence against him is very strong. The government will conduct an inquiry, almost like in the civilian side, a grand jury investigation.
You think they will?
Oh, I think they have to. I think they're probably doing it even as we speak. That the scandal of him not being prosecuted would be too much for the government to bear.
Did they already know any of that before, though? Because they're not listing him as a POW. He was never listed as a POW.
They had to know this, Ainsley. This is really almost the worst conceivable poster boy for the president saying nobody will be left behind.
It's what's interesting is the reason supposedly initially the president didn't notify Congress 30 days ahead of time was because of the guy's health. Okay, the health, we don't know anything about it other than the president just said he's undergoing a battery of tests. But just now the president said, he didn't bring up health. He said, you know, this is what happens at the end of war. And that's what, look, he can't close out Afghanistan with one guy left behind. And so this was a political maneuver.
Absolutely. Let me tell you where this health argument came from. It is almost inconceivable that the Obama administration dispatched to a Sunday morning talk show its most practiced and successful liar, Susan Rice. She's the one who said this guy served honorably and decently.
Why would she say that?
Problem.
Why would she say that?
I don't know why she would say it, Brian. It is contrary to all evidence, and nobody believes her. It lasted for a day. The president has even rejected that argument today.
And even the State Department. Now, here's the thing, and I don't really know if this is a legal question. You're not exchanging this guy for a bag of cricket balls. You're exchanging him for 4 of the worst of the worst that everyone agrees. 5 of the worst of the worst that everybody agrees that are more than likely to go back to terror and are going to be part of the brain trust of the Taliban.
That's why I say the president may very well have committed a federal crime by giving material assistance to a terrorist organization. He ought to have known that that's what these guys will do.
Andy McCarthy, a friend of this program who's got a new book out, he said yesterday...
He says the president should be impeached for this.
That's what he does say. He says it's crimes and misdemeanors.
In my view, it's a very, very valid argument that people are going to start talking about. Look, the last time a president was impeached, it was a disaster, and it was arguably over nonsense. This is far, far more serious.
But here's the thing, too. Where's the president's political benefit? I don't see any Democrat going, look at I'm so proud of my president for giving up, getting a deserter back in exchange for 5 hardened
Brian,
killers.
That is the head scratcher as to why they did this. It doesn't make sense from their own point of view. Democrats will begin to flee from this president. The Democrats who already believe they're going to lose the Senate and lose even more seats in the House now are probably not even going to want him to come in their districts and campaign for him.
It might be like you said earlier, though, that the president is doing this because of the reaction back in the 80s, in 81. When all those POWs were released, and then it was a big deal.
Iran,
and
the hostages.
Yeah, well,
and
this is blowing up in his face. Look, the only benefit to him is that the VA scandal is off the front page.
Right, right. Dick Cheney says that these 5 guys that were released from Gitmo will attack again. You want to talk about some health problems? What about after 9/11? All of the individuals that died, all the people that are facing health problems because we were down there. We're going to have some major health problems if these 5 guys come back and attack.
I have questioned the legal basis for Gitmo, but if you look at the backgrounds of the 5 of them, they are not foot soldiers. They are major manipulators and organizers of the military and intelligence arm of the Taliban.
Sure.
This is an enormous shot in the arm, not just emotionally for them. Aha, we got 5 of our guys for one of theirs. This is a strategic, tactical boost to them, the very thing that the government is prohibited from doing under federal law.
What do you think about the suggestion that this is President Obama's backdoor way of closing Gitmo? I heard Dana Perino talk briefly about this last night, where, maybe 5 here, 5 there, whatever, we got over 100 there. This is one way he could do it.
Well, this is where the McCarthy argument will come in, because the statute that he signed saying I will give them 30 days notice, and as he signed it, he said, I don't like it and I might not enforce it, was passed overwhelmingly by Democrats as well as Republicans.
Absolutely.
He basically will be thumbing his nose to the Congress on a hot-button issue.
Right. It's absolutely a mystery. Judge, thanks so much.
Pleasure, guys.
The U.S. military now saying it will look into any potential misconduct on the part of that American soldier. But tonight, many are asking, did the White House dig into any of this before the controversial decision to let those Taliban detainees go in exchange? Well, this evening, the president is now firing back at his critics. And ABC's chief White House correspondent Jonathan Karl is traveling with the president in Poland.
Here in Europe to talk about defending our allies, the president found himself defending his own decision to strike a deal with the Taliban.
Regardless of the circumstances, whatever those circumstances may turn out to be, we still get an American soldier back if he's held in captivity.
But much of what the White House said initially about the deal for Sergeant Bergdahl is now in question. First, there's Bergdahl himself. On Sunday, the administration portrayed him as something of a hero.
He served the United States with honor and distinction.
But today, the news is the Army is preparing to investigate him. How about the 5 Taliban released in the deal just yesterday?
The transfer of these detainees did not pose a significant threat to the United States.
But today?
Is there the possibility of some of them trying to return to activities that are detrimental to us? Absolutely.
Finally, there's Bergdahl's father, growing his beard till his son was freed, clearly willing to do anything to help. He joined the president in the Rose Garden Saturday to announce the release. Since then, we've learned that last week he tweeted directly to a Taliban spokesman, quote, I am still working to free all Guantanamo prisoners. God will repay for the death of every Afghan child.
David, for all the criticism and second-guessing the White House is facing about making a deal with the Taliban, and there's been even more than they expected, the president's top advisors insist it was an easy call. As one senior official told me tonight, any other president would have done the same thing. David?
Jonathan Karl in Poland tonight. John, thank you.
The father of Sergeant Bo Bergdahl allegedly tweeted about wanting to free Taliban suspects just days before his son got released. He reportedly wrote, I'm still working to free all Guantanamo prisoners. God will repay for the death of every Afghan child. Well, 5 detainees were freed in exchange for Bergdahl. And CNN's Nick Valencia reports that that tweet has since been deleted.
Now, a military spokesman for the family said that Bob and Janie Bergdahl did not have a comment about that tweet. He would not verify its authenticity. CNN could not independently confirm its authenticity either. One resident did come up to me and say that that message, that tweet, may cause complications for Bo Bergdahl when he does eventually return to Haley, Idaho. Now, a family friend of the Bergdahls told me that even if Bob Bergdahl was tweeting this, that it shouldn't speak for Bo Bergdahl. They're two different people. Now, Bo Bergdahl, of course, has been the target of criticism himself, with some people calling him a hero, others calling him a deserter. Family friend I spoke to said it can't be seen as a black and white issue. There's a lot of gray area. She went on to tell me her reaction to the criticism.
And I think that he was doing what he thought was right, and I hope that people can give his family a little peace, and I hope we can get to the bottom of it. And if something happened that made him do this that was wrong, I hope that we could all get together and say, how could we stop this from happening next time?
We've also learned that former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was very skeptical of a prisoner swap to get Bo Bergdahl, according to officials who at that time were involved. Apparently, when she was the Secretary of State, the plan had been discussed years ago, but she reportedly was concerned about their ability to monitor then any detainee that would get transferred. And she wanted Qatar to impose tighter restrictions.